We are all waiting on the 2021 cars to be unveiled, but a radical new vision for the future of F1 is just around the corner in 2022. But what's actually changing? There are changes both on and off the track, with the aim to radically change the sport to improve the viewing experience. With the dominance of Mercedes having taken 94 wins in 127 races since 2014, it'll be a welcome sight for the fan of pure racing, so let's talk you through the main changes. The FIA were looking to achieve 5 important points. They wanted cars that are better able to battle on track, a more balanced competition on track, success determined more by how efficiently a team spends its money, not how much it spends, a sport that is a better business for those participating and more attractive to potential new entrants, a sport that continues to be the world's premier motor racing competition and the perfect showcase for pioneering technology. 2022 F1 cars will have a radical new design philosophy and striking new look, with sweeping bodywork, simplified front wings, bigger rear wings, increased underbody aerodynamics, wheel weight control devices, simplified suspension, and tyres that are low profile with a more aesthetically pleasing 18-inch rim. It's also being suggested that wheel hubs will be constructed with a rotating LED display panel to indicate information to spectators, while a bodywork display instrument is also being proposed for the same reason. Though aesthetics were a major deliberation, the changes outlined above aren't just to please the eye. Over the past 4 years, both Formula 1 and the FIA have been determined to design cars that can race more closely. The answer to that was finding a solution to the loss of downforce that current cars experience when running up close behind another car. Running in dirty air behind another car, a 2021 spec car can lose more than 40% of its downforce, but with the 2022 car design, this will be more around 5 or 10%, with air flowing off the new cars both cleaner and diverted higher, meaning it has considerably less impact on the drivers following, giving them the chance to catch, battle and overtake. For the first time in its history, Formula 1 will bring in spending restrictions to make the sport fairer and more sustainable. A cost cap will be set at $175 million per team per year. This applies to anything that covers the car's on-track performance, but will exclude marketing costs, the driver's salary and the top 3 crew in any team. The F1 cost cap will bring an end to the growing spending gap between F1's big teams and those with fewer resources, and the on-track performance differential this brings. In addition to new financial rules, there are significant changes to the technical and sporting regulations. Rules have been put in place to limit car upgrades over a race weekend, and the number of in-season aerodynamic upgrades, reducing the expensive development arms race that can result in a less competitive grid. There will also be the introduction of listed standardised parts such as fuel pumps, parts that must have a prescribed design such as air ducts, and increased restrictions on the number of times some components such as wear items like brake pads can be replaced. Engine regulations. Discussions over the 2022 engine regulations began in 2017 and were finalised in May 2018. The proposed regulations involve removing the motor generation heat unit, MGUH, to simplify the technology used in the engine, whilst raising the maximum rev limit by 3000 rpm. Further proposals dubbed plug and play would see engine suppliers bound by the regulations to make individual engine components universally compatible, allowing teams to source their components from multiple suppliers. Manufacturers will also be subject to a similar regulation concerning commercially available materials, as chassis constructors will be subject from 2022. The proposed design will simplify the engine technology whilst making the sport more attractive to new entrants. However, as no new power unit suppliers committed themselves to entering the sport from 2022, the existing suppliers propose to retain the existing power unit formula in a bid to reduce overall development costs. The quota system of power unit components will continue in 2022, with the teams given a limited number of individual components that can be used before incurring a penalty. The exhaust system will be added to the list of components, with teams allowed to use a maximum number of 6 over the course of the championship before the driver will receive a penalty. To save on cost, cars will be 25 kgs heavier as a result of new lower profile tyres, changes in chassis and PU materials, further safety measures and the introduction of standardised and prescription parts. That will make the car slower than now to start out with. Gearbox design will be more restricted, with configurations frozen to save on research and development costs. Tyre blankets meanwhile will not be scrapped as once proposed, instead remaining for 2022 and 2023, albeit with restrictions. Revised race weekends. There will also be small but important changes to the race weekend structure, which will be condensed in order to improve the fan experience and help teams to deal with an extended calendar, with the maximum number of races in a season now 25. The pre-race press conference will be switched from Thursday to Friday, ahead of the first and second practice sessions, while cars will now be in park firming conditions, i.e. race trim, from the start of FP3. FP3 also marks the point at which teams must return their cars to reference specification, presented for scrutineering before FP1, so teams are only allowed to race with what they sent to scrutineering on Friday. Teams can still run development parts in practice, but if they can't then decide to race with those parts that week, it has have to go through scrutiny first, so teams might have to take a gamble before the weekend on a new part rather than wait to see if the data looks good. Furthermore, all teams must run at least 2 practice sessions during the year using drivers who have completed 2 Grand Prix or fewer, giving more chances for the next generation to shine. Although some teams wanted a further delay in the introduction of the new regulations, Ross Brawn confirmed that the changes are a definite go-ahead for 2022, saying, "The cars we have now are so complex. The more you spend, the quicker you go. We need to level off that slope and create a situation where money is not the only criteria for how competitive you will be. We still want the great teams to win. We have to maintain the integrity of Formula 1. It's a sport and we need to have the best people winning. But I think we'll have a competitive form of racing in the future with these new regulations and the new cars. They've been deferred for a year, but they're definitely coming in 2022. So I think 2022 is really going to turn F1 on its head and bring some exciting and unexpected results, which will be great for us, the spectators. Let me know what you guys think of the new cars and the regulations in the comments. Thanks for watching."